In Port Harcourt, where rain hits zinc like drumbeats, one quiet, steadfast girl is being traded to a man the waters marked Ikenna, the Night Scar. They say he's cursed, half-mute, followed by spirits from the mangroves. But watch his hands, too precise. His steps, too sure. Amara Naji, underestimated but unbreakable, is about to cross a gate that should not open for a house girl. Is this a trap laid by greed, or a test designed by someone far more dangerous and powerful than he appears? Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to this journey of shocking truths and poetic justice. Could a single act of kindness rewrite a cruel destiny? Let's get into it. The sun had not yet risen over the Port Harcourt waterfront, but the streets already pulsed with the restless noise of generators coughing to life. Thin smoke curled through the alleys, mixing with the damp smell of fish and salt carried by the morning tide. Inside a cramped compound with zinc roofing patched in rust, Amara Naji crouched over a blackened pot, blowing on the firewood flame until her eyes stung. She was 20, but her shoulders carried years far heavier. Her hands were quick, practiced, stirring ogbono soup with precise movements so it would not burn, even though she herself had not tasted meat in weeks. The world only saw her as the house girl who did everything: fetch water, hawk soup by the jetty, scrub floors, wash clothes, and endure. She had once been a beloved daughter. That was before a fever took her mother and a car accident silenced her father. Orphaned at 14, she had been taken in by her aunt Morenike, who promised to care for her, but quickly reduced her to an unpaid servant. Amara! The voice cracked through the dawn like a whip. Amara froze, ladle in hand. Morenike stepped out, wrapper knotted tight around her waist, face hard with sleep still clinging to her eyes. How long will you stare at that pot? Do you think food cooks itself? Amara swallowed and stirred faster. It's almost ready, Ma. Almost ready, Morenike mocked, spitting on the ground. Hurry up. People like you don't have the luxury of almost. When you're done, scrub the compound, and don't forget to carry the pepper soup to the jetty. Customers are waiting. Amara nodded, her eyes lowered. She had learned that replies only earned her slaps. Her cousins, Bissy and Adana, emerged yawning, their hair wrapped in silk bonnets, phones already in hand. They ignored her as they always did, drifting past like queens in their own palace, even though the compound smelled of mildew and sewage. Adana paused only to sneer. Amara, you missed a spot yesterday when you scrubbed the floor. My slippers got dirty. Bissy laughed. Maybe she needs new eyes, or maybe she thinks she's too fine to work. They cackled, swaying their hips as they vanished back into the room with painted nails and perfume Amara could never afford. Amara's chest tightened, but she said nothing. She stirred the soup until the smell filled the room and fought back hunger that clawed at her belly. She reached for a broken stool and sat, whispering a prayer her mother once taught her. God, don't let bitterness live in me. Give me strength to see tomorrow. Just then, Morenike's voice cut through again, sharper, deliberate. Eat fast, girl. You have a visitor today. Amara blinked. She rarely had visitors. No one came for her. A visitor, Ma? She asked cautiously. Morenike's lips curled into a strange smile. Yes, a man. He says he wants a wife, and I told him you are available. The ladle slipped from Amara's hand, clattering against the pot. A wife? For me? Morenike's smile deepened, cruel and satisfied. Don't flatter yourself. He's not a prince. He is Ikenna, the Night Scar. You've heard of him? Amara shook her head. Morenike leaned closer, voice low and cutting. They say his boat engine exploded years ago. The river nearly swallowed him. He came back with a scar across his face and a broken voice. Some say spirits followed him from the mangroves. He's cursed. He speaks only at night when the waters call him. But he wants a wife. And you, my useless burden, are perfect. Amara's heart pounded. Ma, please. I'm not ready for marriage. I want to. Morenike slapped the words out of her mouth. The sting burned across Amara's cheek. Shut up. Who are you to want anything? You live in my house, eat my food. You think I'll waste my money on your schooling while my daughters need theirs? You'll marry that man tomorrow. Whether you like it or not, tears welled in Amara's eyes. Ma, please, let me finish my catering course. Another slap, this time harder. Catering course? Do you think life is about dreams? Life is survival. You'll marry him, and that's final. If not, pack your rags and sleep by the gutters. Amara's body shook. She bit her lip until she tasted blood, but she refused to cry in front of them. She bent low, picked up the ladle, and continued stirring as her cousins laughed. Later that evening, word spread quickly. Neighbors whispered as they passed the compound. Some laughed, others clicked their tongues. Ikenna, the night scar, is marrying Morenike's niece? God forbid. Better her than my daughter, one woman said. They say his eyes glow when the moon rises. Maybe she offended her aunt. Why else would they give her to a cursed man? By the time the sun sank, Amara was curled on her thin mat by the kitchen window, staring at the night sky. A lone star blinked through the haze of smoke. She whispered, "Is this my fate? To be thrown away like scraps? To be tied to a man they fear?" Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She pulled out a small, worn notebook from beneath her pillow. Inside were recipes she had copied from customers at the jetty. Jollof rice variations, bread pudding, even coconut cake. She traced the words with her finger, her heart heavy. "One day," she whispered to herself, "one day I'll cook in my own kitchen, not as a servant, but as a chef." But tomorrow was coming fast, and tomorrow she would meet Ikenna, the night scar. The morning of the wedding arrived with heavy clouds pressing low over the city, the kind that promised rain but refused to fall. Amara sat on the edge of her thin mat, her hands clutching the hem of a borrowed gown. It was dull yellow, frayed at the sleeves, and 2 sizes too big. Bissy had tossed it at her the night before with a mocking laugh. "You'll need something to cover your shame," she had said. Amara had not slept. She had spent the hours staring at the notebook of recipes tucked beneath her pillow, whispering the words to herself as though each one could shield her from what awaited. Now, as Morenike's voice thundered from the courtyard, there was no delaying the inevitable. "He's here!" Amara come out at once. Her heart pounded, her palms were damp. With trembling hands, she tied her headscarf and stepped outside. The compound seemed quieter than usual. Neighbors had gathered by the fence pretending to gossip, but really waiting to witness the spectacle. Some whispered prayers for her, others smirked, eager for scandal. At the far end of the yard, he stood, Ikenna, the night scar. He was taller than she imagined, shoulders straight beneath a simple brown shirt. A faded cap shadowed his face, but the scar was visible, cutting diagonally from his jaw to his temple. His eyes were unreadable, steady, watchful. He held himself with a calm that unsettled her, like a man who carried secrets too heavy for words. Beside him stood Mama Nyenke, the old fish trader from the jetty. Amara knew her well. Nyanka was sharp-tongued and shrewd, but she had never been unkind. Today, though, her eyes flicked across the compound like a hawk, missing nothing. "Amara!" Mareniki's voice cracked like a whip. She grabbed Amara's arm and shoved her forward. "This is the girl I told you about. She is hardworking, quiet, obedient." Her smile to Ikenna was broad and false. Amara's knees trembled, but she bowed her head in greeting. For a moment, silence stretched. Then Ikenna's voice came, rough and strained, as though pulled through gravel. "So, this is Amara?" The sound sent a shiver through the watching crowd. Amara raised her eyes briefly, meeting his gaze. She expected emptiness, but instead found calm precision, like a man measuring every detail. "Yes," she answered softly. He nodded once. "Then let it be done." The ceremony was quick, stripped of joy. A local pastor was summoned. The words rushed through beneath a leaking zinc roof. No music, no food, only the rain tapping like impatient fingers. Mareniki's eyes shone not with tears, but with triumph as the small bride price changed hands. Thin bundles of naira, enough to keep her gossiping neighbors silent. When it was over, Amara found herself seated beside Ikenna in a dusty jeep, the compound fading behind them. She looked once over her shoulder. Bissy and Adana waved mockingly from the veranda, their laughter echoing long after the gate shut. The road stretched before them, rough with potholes, lined with hawkers shouting for attention. The jeep rumbled forward. For a long while, silence filled the air. Amara clasped her hands tightly in her lap, her wedding ring loose on her finger, heavy like a chain. Ikenna sat still beside her, his scar visible even in the dim light that filtered through the window. She dared not speak, but her eyes scanned him in secret. His shirt was plain, yet pressed neatly. His shoes were not worn out, but polished. His posture was too straight for a man beaten down by life, and his hands resting on his lap bore no tremor. They were strong, steady, precise. Nothing about him fit the picture Morinake had painted. Finally, she whispered, Where are we going?" Ikenna turned his head slightly, his voice still low, almost hoarse. "Home." Amara swallowed hard. "Where is home?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked toward the window as the jeep turned away from the market roads and onto a smoother path. The potholes disappeared. The shouting vendors grew distant. Ahead, the houses changed. Larger compounds, iron gates, trimmed hedges, satellite dishes glinting under the gray sky. Amara's breath caught. This was not the road to poverty. This was a road she had never traveled. The driver said nothing, his eyes fixed forward. Mama Nyanka sat in front, humming faintly, though her sharp eyes never left the rearview mirror. Amara's pulse quickened as they turned again, deeper into the quiet streets. The houses now had guards, security lights, even paved driveways. It was as if they had crossed an invisible line where the city shed its noise and revealed another face. She gripped her notebook hidden in her lap, fear and confusion twisting inside her. Who was this man they called cursed? And why did everything around him whisper of something else entirely? The jeep rolled deeper into the silent streets until even the hum of the city seemed far away. Amara pressed herself against the window, wide-eyed. Every turn carried them farther from the Port Harcourt she knew. No hawkers, no children splashing in puddles, no smell of diesel. Instead, the air grew cleaner, touched with a faint scent of bougainvillea that spilled over manicured fences. The houses rose taller, some with balconies, others with pillars and carved gates. Her throat tightened. This was not the world of a cursed beggar. This was the world of men who owned fleets, who signed contracts that moved millions. Finally, the Jeep slowed before a high black gate lined with gold trim. On its face, embossed letters gleamed O.H. The driver tapped a code, and the gate swung open with the quiet efficiency of wealth. Inside stretched a paved driveway bordered by trimmed hedges and flowering palms. Security lights glowed softly, and a tall fountain sprayed arcs of water into the air. At the far end stood a compound house, modern, elegant, painted cream with wide glass windows that caught the dim light. Amara's heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. She clutched her notebook tighter in her lap, whispering silently, "Who is this man?" The Jeep came to a stop. A young man in a crisp uniform rushed forward to open the doors. "Welcome, sir." "Welcome," Madame Amara froze. "Madam?" The word sounded strange, like a garment too big for her to wear. Mama Nenka stepped out first, giving Amara a small nod. "Come down, child." No need to fear. Amara's legs trembled as she obeyed. Her worn sandals touched the polished tiles of the driveway. She looked up at the house, then at Ikenna. He stood calmly, removing his faded cap. For the first time, she saw his full face. The scar was real, jagged across his jaw, but his eyes, clear, sharp, steady, were not the eyes of a broken man. She stared, her mouth dry. You're not." He met her gaze without flinching. Slowly, he spoke, his voice strong, no longer strained. "My name is not Ikenna. My name is Chiameka Obelor." The words struck like thunder. Amara staggered back a step, gripping her notebook to her chest. "Chiameka Obelor?" He nodded once. "Owner of Obelor Holdings. We manage barges, warehouses, shipments along the coast. Perhaps you've heard whispers she had. Everyone at the jetty had. Obelor Holdings was the name on crates the company men feared to cheat, the brand stamped on containers moving up the Niger. But the man in front of her, this supposed night scar, was its master." Amara shook her head in disbelief. I don't understand. You pretended? Why?" His eyes softened slightly. "Because truth cannot be bought, Amara. Wealth attracts flatterers. Men bow, women smile, friends multiply. But when people believe you have nothing, their hearts show naked. I needed to see you without masks. And you did not mock me. You did not spit on my silence. Even in your pain, you spoke gently. That told me everything." Amara's eyes blurred with tears. "But I am nothing. I am a house girl. How could I belong here?" His expression did not waver. "You are not nothing. I watched you before I came. I saw you give pepper soup to a sick boy at the jetty when you had not eaten yourself. I saw you cover for Adana when she broke your aunt's mirror, knowing it would mean punishment for you. You carried dignity in silence when others would have chosen bitterness." "That is rare." Amara's knees weakened. She sank onto the nearest bench by the driveway, trembling. Her whole body screamed disbelief. She whispered, "So all along, Morenike thought she was discarding me to a curse, but she sold me into—" She could not finish. Chiameka's lips curved faintly, though not in mockery. "Into truth," he said. He gestured toward the house. "Come inside. You will see more clearly there inside." The house opened into a living room larger than any place Amara had ever entered. A chandelier glowed above velvet chairs. Glass tables reflected golden light. Paintings hung on the walls, not cheap prints, but textured originals. She stood frozen at the threshold, clutching her notebook as if it were the only thing tethering her to reality. Chiameka approached slowly, giving her space. his voice lowered, almost gentle. From this day, you are free from Morenike. No more insults, no more hunger. You will not serve here as a maid. You will be treated with dignity, as my wife Amara's breath caught. The word wife weighed heavy. She shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't know how to be this. I don't know perfumes or rich words or how to stand among people like you. Chimeka studied her carefully. I did not choose you for perfumes. I chose you for truth. The rest, if you wish, you will learn. If you do not, it does not matter. All that matters is that you remain who you are. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks, silent but endless. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her not as a burden, not as a tool, but as a soul. She covered her face, whispering, I don't deserve this. Chimeka knelt slightly, his voice firm yet warm. You deserve far more than you know. Amara sobbed into her hands, the notebook clutched between her fingers. The world had flipped. Yesterday she was a discarded servant. Today she was standing in the house of a man who commanded the waters. And though her heart trembled with fear, something inside whispered that her life had only just begun. Back in the neighborhood by the jetty, gossip spread like wildfire. Morenike strutted beneath the mango tree, her wrapper tied tightly, her mouth quick with stories. She told anyone who would listen that she had rid herself of her late brother's burden. At least the blind man will keep her busy, she bragged, sipping cheap malt. Bissy and Adana giggled at her side, painting their nails, mocking how Amara must now cook, clean, and even lead a cursed man by the hand. She wanted school, Bissy sneered. Now she will learn how to wash a half-dead husband. Their laughter carried across the street, where neighbors shook their heads but said nothing. They had learned long ago that Morenike's tongue was sharper than a cutlass. Days passed. Then one evening, as children played 10-10 by the roadside and women roasted corn by charcoal fire, a sleek black SUV turned into the lane. It was not the kind of car that belonged there. Its engine purred smooth, polished like wealth itself. The chatter froze. Doors swung open, and a man in a suit stepped out, carrying a gold-trimmed envelope. He asked for Morenike. She rose from her chair, suspicious, her mouth twitching. The man bowed slightly. Delivery from Mr. and Mrs. Chimeka Obalor. The name struck like lightning. Obalor? Morenike echoed, blinking. Yes, madam. Your niece and her husband. He handed her the envelope and left, the SUV gliding away without a sound. Neighbors pressed closer, their curiosity boiling. Morenike tore the seal, her fingers shaking. Inside lay an invitation, printed on thick ivory paper with gold lettering. It read, You are cordially invited to a community dinner at the Obalor residence, hosted by Chief Chimeka Obalor and his wife, Amara Obalor. A glossy photo was tucked inside. Morenike's mouth fell open. It was Amara, no longer in rags, no longer bowed. She stood radiant in a patterned emerald gown, her hair neatly styled, diamonds twinkling at her neck. Beside her stood Chimeka, eyes sharp, scar visible yet dignified, his hand resting protectively on hers. Behind them, the Obalor house gleamed, the fountain spraying arcs of silver water into the air. The crowd gasped. Obalor? Whispered Mama Kallio, a neighbor. The same Obalor that owns the warehouses by the wharf? Chimeka Obalor? The one with ships moving up the coast? Another added. A murmur spread. But Morenike told us the man was cursed, half dead, a beggar. She sold her niece to a billionaire, someone said, laughing cruelly, without knowing. Marenike's face twisted, red with fury and disbelief. "Lies!" she shouted, clutching the paper to her chest. "This is witchcraft." She must have charmed him, but the evidence was in every hand now. Neighbors snatching glimpses of the photo, their whispers turning into open laughter. "See how God works?" one woman said. "You treated her like a slave, and now she sits in palaces." "You wanted to bury her," another sneered, "but you planted a seed instead." Bissy snatched the photo from her mother, eyes wide. "Mommy, look at her dress. Look at that house. This is real." Adana's jaw dropped. "You said he was cursed." "You lied to us." The mocking laughter swelled. Children danced around the compound singing, "Mama sold gold, Mama sold gold." Marenike staggered, her breath shallow, shame crashing over her like a wave. She sank to the ground, wailing, tearing at her wrapper. How? How can this be? But there was no pity in the eyes around her. The neighbors who once feared her tongue now mocked freely. "Your house girl is now your madam," one said. "Respect her well at the dinner." That night, Marenike could not sleep. She tossed on her mat, haunted by Amara's face in that photo. The girl she starved, slapped, and scorned was now beyond her reach. Bissy and Adana muttered angrily in the room, blaming her. "If you hadn't forced her, we would be the ones in that house," Bissy spat. Adana added bitterly, "Now we are left with nothing." The compound grew quiet, but Marenike's shame grew louder than any noise. She had miscalculated. She had thought she was discarding waste, but she had unknowingly delivered her niece into power. Meanwhile, at the Obilor residence, Amara stood on the balcony wrapped in a soft robe. The night breeze carried the scent of jasmine from the garden. She looked down at the glowing fountain, the lights casting golden ripples across the water. Her heart felt heavy with disbelief. She whispered, "Is this truly my life?" Behind her, Chiameka stepped forward, silent as always, until his presence warmed the air. "You are far away again," he said gently. Amara turned, a faint smile touching her lips. "It still feels like I am dreaming." He leaned on the railing beside her. "Do you think dreams last this long?" She lowered her gaze. "I think maybe I don't deserve it." His brow furrowed. "Why would you say that?" Her eyes welled with tears. "Because I'm not polished. I don't know how to walk like those women at the wharf or speak like them. I was a house girl. How can I belong here?" Chiameka reached for her hand, holding it firmly. "Amara, I did not marry Polish. I married truth. I could have had women with perfume smiles that hide knives. But I wanted the one who showed dignity, even in rags." "That is worth more than perfume." Her breath caught. She whispered, "Why me?" He looked at her steadily. "Because I watched you long before I spoke to you. You were tested by fire, yet you did not turn to ash. I knew then you carried something no money can buy." Amara's tears spilled, but this time they burned with healing. She let herself weep, and for once it was not from pain, but from the weight of being seen. The city outside carried on, unaware, but within those walls the story had turned. The girl who was meant to vanish had become a woman the river itself seemed to protect. And in the neighborhood she left behind, her name was now carried not in pity, but in awe. Weeks passed, but Marenike's house no longer rang with laughter. The mango tree that once sheltered her gossip now shaded silence. Customers at her pepper soup stall had dwindled, neighbors whispering behind her back. Children mocked her daughters, chanting, Mama sold gold, Mama sold gold. Bissy and Adana turned bitter, blaming her for their lost chance. You said he was cursed, Adana hissed one night. You tricked us into thinking she was nothing. Now she eats like a queen, and we are left with scraps. Morenike could not reply. Shame had made her tongue heavy. She could not erase the image of Amara in emerald green, standing beside Chiameka Obilor. The memory burned her every time she closed her eyes. Then one evening, just as the sun bled into the horizon, a black SUV pulled quietly in front of her gate. Morenike's heart stopped. She peered through the curtain, fear gripping her chest. Could it be another letter to mock her? The car door opened. Amara stepped out. She wore a simple orange dress, no diamonds, no makeup. Her hair was tied back, her face calm, dignified. Mama Nayenka followed, carrying a small brown bag. Neighbors peeked from their verandas, holding their breath. Morenike stumbled to the doorway. You came?" Her voice cracked, torn between disbelief and longing. Amara nodded gently. "I came." For a moment, silence pressed thick between them. Bissy and Adana hovered in the background, eyes wide, unsure whether to sneer or to bow. Morenike swallowed hard, words trembling out. Did your husband send you? To shame me more?" Amara shook her head. "No, I came on my own." Morenike's lips quivered. "Then you are here to mock me?" Amara's gaze stayed steady. "No, Auntie, I came to forgive you." The words sliced through the compound like wind in a storm. Murmurs rose from the neighbors who had gathered outside the gate. Morenike's knees buckled, and she sank onto the bare ground. "Forgive me?" Her voice broke into sobs. "I treated you like an animal. I called you useless. I slapped you. I sold you away thinking it would end your dreams. And yet, you shine brighter than all of us. How can you forgive me?" Amara's eyes glistened, but her voice remained calm. "Because if I hold your bitterness in my heart, it will poison my future. I will never forget what you did, but I refuse to carry hate. I came because you are still the only family I have left. Whether you accept it or not," she handed the brown bag to Morenike. Inside lay neat bundles of cash, not extravagant, but enough to repair her stall, enough to give her a chance to live without cruelty. "This is for your shop," Amara said quietly, "and maybe to remind you that kindness costs less than wickedness." Morenike wept openly now, clutching the bag as though it were a lifeline. Her daughters stood frozen, shame written across their faces. Neighbors murmured in awe. Mama Kallio, the old gossip, whispered, "See how God works. The girl who was despised now brings mercy to the one who scorned her." Amara turned to leave, her sandals crunching softly against the dirt. But before she stepped into the car, she paused. "Auntie," she said, her voice low but firm, "I forgive, but I will not return here. My life is my own now. Treat others better than you treated me, so that this shame will not follow you forever." Then she entered the SUV, and the door closed with quiet finality. The car glided away, leaving Morenike kneeling in the dust, her tears soaking into the earth. That night, Amara returned to the Obilor residence, her spirit heavy but free. She found Chiameka in the kitchen, stirring a pot of fisherman's soup, the scent rich with crayfish and pepper. He looked up, smiling faintly. "You went back," he said. She nodded, sitting quietly at the table. "I forgave her." He studied her face, then said softly, "And do you feel lighter?" Amara's eyes welled with tears, but she smiled. "Yes, lighter than I ever thought I could." Chiameka placed a steaming bowl before her, then slid a stack of forms across the table. These are for your catering program. Enrollment starts next month. You will finish what you dreamed, Amara. Her fingers trembled as she touched the papers. The notebook she once clutched in secret now had a future. Thank you, she whispered. He took her hand, steady and warm. You owe me no thanks. You earned this long before you met me. Together they ate, the soup rich, the silence between them filled not with fear, but with peace. In time, Amara would go on to start the Mangrove Girls Fund with Mama Nyenke, a program to help young housemaids learn trades and escape cycles of abuse. But that night, on the balcony overlooking the glowing fountain, she allowed herself to rest. She had been called useless, cursed, a burden. Yet she stood now not because she fought for revenge, but because she chose dignity and mercy. In the old words of the river elders, when the mangroves whistle, some answer with greed, others with kindness, and the river always remembers. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please share your thoughts and tell us what you learned in the comment box. We would truly love to read them. And guess what? Another powerful story is coming your way in just a few days. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell, and hit the like button. Most importantly, share this story with your family and friends. Thank you so much for watching.